Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Live for a bit of a weird show this week. I made a slight error in my timekeeping, so I definitely I put my clocks forward because I'm in Florida, but I didn't make the mental calculation because it's been that long since I lived in the UK that I didn't realize the times were different. So I'm going to do a 2-hour show because all of my UK team, except for John, who's very kindly stepped in. And also we've got, let me just add Thomas in. So we're going to go for 2 hours. So, yeah, because it's we're going to go for 2 hours, so you'll have like a split into two show. We'll have a new panel joining. This panel will stay, but we'll have an additional panel joining. So we're going to go for 2 hours. But yeah, Thomas, thank you for joining us. John, thank you for stepping in last minute hosting duties.
Can you hear me? Problems. Okay? Is my sound all right? Can you hear me?
A little tad low there, Thomas.
Do you wanna boost me a bit?
Yeah, let me.
So I should have joined earlier. We should have done this backstage. I'm sorry. Apologies, audience.
No, it's loud now. It's gone up. You've boosted him. It sounds loud. Have you done anything yet? No, yeah, yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining a little bit earlier. So thanks, Bill. Bill, I don't know where you're based, but thank you if you joined early. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. And then we've got So Kevin says, I like daylight to stay longer. I like to spend more time outside around 6:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. when it's not raining. Very true. Kevin lives in Florida, and we're about to get to monsoon season or rainy season. Aaron, thank you for joining us. Matt, upvote. Thank you very much, Matt. And then Big V, thank you for joining us. Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about British watches, but we'll do the important task first. We'll do a little bit of a wristwatch check. Thomas, you're in the hot seat. You're in the bottom. What are you wearing?
I'm staying topical, and as I went to British Watchmakers Day and I saw John there, I'm wearing one of the watches that was exhibiting, and it is the watch that you don't like the strap of. It's my Sidereus Noth watch with the Magon tweed strap.
Oh,
I don't like the strap either. Sorry, that should be on someone's head or on that should be on Paul Thorpe's body. You should be wearing like a jacket like that or something, or
it's funny you said that, Thomas. But I think that watch, that strap, I know the ideal watch for it. Do you remember what I said the ideal watch was for that strap?
Go on.
The Ben Claymore G-Shock. He should have gone all in. We should have gone all in with the theme. The tweed strap.
You're right.
And that is the strap. So see, it might not be my personal preference, Thomas, but I always remembered it. That was a special moment the last time you showed that strap, and it always stayed in my head. We've got actually Rich from Studio Underdog. Yeah, thank you. I let Rich know like way too late. I suddenly realised that we'll probably be talking a lot about him.
He's probably flat out. He's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not just chilled out with a beer after yesterday. I'll get to that in a minute.
After all those,
we'll get to that in a minute. He was the star. He was the star of the show yesterday, and that's not an insult to anybody else who was there. But I'll explain why I say that ongoing in a bit. Obviously,
it's so lovely to see you, Richard. It was. And
yes.
I think he sold something. He said he took something.
Yeah, let's not spoil it as well. We'll get to it because he's like ridiculous, wasn't it?
Okay, John. Okay.
No, I just want to tell people what it was like. It was incredible. He was the star of the show, wasn't he, Thomas? Unbelievable.
Yeah, he did amazing. As I was saying, I think him and Andrew from Time and Tide were there.
Time and Tide was helping him, yeah.
With his chef's hat, they're dressed as chefs.
Amazing. Amazing.
And, did amazing, yeah.
So he says he is indeed on the sofa with a beer. I just realised we've got 3 live stream hosts all together, haven't we?
Yeah.
This will be an interesting one. John, just as you take a mouthful of tea, what are you wearing?
Well, it's got me on a NATO strap. I've got me. What happened? There's a friend of the channel called Christian Paul who had a chat with him and his wife yesterday for ages. They were queuing for Studio Underdog, so I had a chat with him, and he's got an S&P 300. They had it on a NATO strap, so I took mine off the bracelet today, and I put my S&P 300 on a NATO. I think it looks really good on a NATO.
Yeah,
pretty. Yeah, the show was was very, very busy yesterday.
Awesome. Well, I'll cap this off. I have actually been wearing my brim on. Actually, I've been wearing on that on the Octopod strap. I think I'll do a review of this Octopod because both the watch and the strap I like a lot more than I thought I would. But I also was. I think I might be the first person in the US to get one of these. So big shout out to Nicholas. But I bought the Fears Redcliffe.
Beautiful.
With the date, yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
nice.
So
That.
no doubt we'll be discussing that very
Absolutely.
soon. Well, let's kick it off then. You guys both went to the British Clock and Watchmakers, or British Watch and Clockmakers Association event, which I mean, I was jealous because it looked like they got an overwhelming response there. It looked like they could have done with twice the space,
Yeah.
but I don't know, John. Do you want to kick
Yeah,
this
I
off
had the
and then
morning
Tom, if you
slot
do
because
yours?
I said the morning slot. I had an all day slot. I snoozed on getting a ticket, and I tried to get one, and of course it was sold out. So I messaged Richard at Studio Underdog and said, "Can you help me out?" And he put me on his guest list, which is really, really good and really, really kind of him. I wish I could have helped him on the stand, but it was like, you know what I mean? It was like he was the first person I went to see. So I got in, and as Thomas said, there was 50 people queuing, must have been at least 50, maybe more, queuing for Richard there at 10 o'clock when I got in, 10 past 10. And it was like that all day because he was selling his pizza watches, and it was basically you can only come to the shows, which I am at throughout the world, throughout the year to get them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty good
And
visual.
yeah, as Thomas said, he was dressed in a chef's uniform, along with guy the guy from what's his first name? The guy from Time and Tide. Andrew, yeah, Andrew McClutcher, yeah, from Time and Tide, both in the chef's uniform, and he had Richard's guys in the back boxing up the stuff, and it was completely crazy. I mean, I was telling my friend Graham, it was so crazy that the fact is that in the end, Richard was signing boxes with the watch in,
Oh wow.
like doing autographing the boxes. It's like he was the star himself, not just the watch. It was
Yeah,
absolutely
wow.
amazing. You know, I mean, Christopher Ward to me was the second busiest stand there in the morning, anyhow. But they weren't half as busy as Richard. Richard was the busiest stand, bar none, all day that I saw. I was there till 2 o'clock from 10, and it was just mad busy.
Well, the first thing I saw were photos that Mark posted of Mark, who usually joins this stream, and he posted pictures of people queuing around the block, literally queuing right around the actual building, the horticultural halls, to get in.
Yes, that's right, in the morning. But luckily, because I was on the guest thing, I poked my head in the door. I thought I'm just going to try it and see. But I'll probably tell you to join the queue. But they said no, come in. So I jumped the queue.
So for the morning session, people were actually queuing right round the building to get in. So that was the first queue. And then, as John says, people were queuing to get Studio Underdog. They were queuing. I talked to Nicholas Bowman-Scargill from Fears. They were queuing to get his 100th anniversary Fears Brunswick in silver, which he produced, which is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. I saw that, and it's an absolutely knockout watch. It's really faithful to the 100th anniversary, so the type of watch that the brand would have been producing 100 years ago.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous, and it's a stunning watch. And he's had 5 allocated for the morning slot and 5 for the afternoon slot to sell.
Yeah, Christopher Ward did that with their Belcanto as well. They had 5 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. That seemed to be the thing.
Christopher Ward ran a raffle though, didn't they? They ran a raffle system.
Were they? Were they?
Yeah, a friend of mine entered. I mean, this is the Fears watch, and it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. It's a silver case. I'm not sure whether the dial is enamel, but it looks astounding, and it's 38 millimeters. It's the classic Brunswick size. like the copper salmon dial, which I love too. I tried that on, and it's just beautiful. I think there's. I don't want to spoil Nicholas's plans if he hasn't announced anything, but I think there's plans for in the pipeline for a similar watch to come out.
You're being very careful there
yeah,
about what
very
you're
careful.
saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was time. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
so Junior asked, does the watch come in a pizza box? And yeah, Bill K's right. The pizza party watch does come in a pizza box,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Like
pizza
a
box.
little.
It's a proper square pizza box. Like you expect I don't know, a 6-inch pizza to come in. Amazing, and he was signing the boxes. It's brilliant how he's done that. And marketing, he's absolutely superb, isn't it? For that, So
Yeah, if
he
you
just
said like
is.
a couple of years ago, before Studio Underdog was around, like, oh, one of the hottest watches of 2022 will be a watch that looks like a pizza with pizza toppings on it, you would have been like, no,
No,
there's no
that
way.
doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, he even brought it out on April Fool's Day, didn't he? And people were thinking he's this. I remember seeing the advert actually, thinking he's this. Is this just a joke? Is this one of Richard's jokes? And then I read that every show he went to, people kept asking him, "When's the pizza watch coming out?" So obviously, people gauged it and thought we do want it.
Yeah.
Great marketing.
I
Um,
spoke I
go on.
spoke to the staff on the Studio Underdog store, and
Yeah.
they took something like 4,000 orders for different watches,
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
amazing. I really tip my hat to you, Richard. You really made an amazing job of a brilliant British brand.
Yeah.
I mean, you really put British watchmaking, helped to establish British watchmaking, put it on the map, and
Yeah. Brilliant. Yes.
created a buzz and created demand, and you got people around the world who are wanting your product, and it's a great product. It's a great design. As we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he's even got people homaging his watches,
Yeah.
and it's just brilliant. It's just I really tip my hat to you, Richard. I spoke to him briefly in the show because he was inundated and so busy, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was all these brands. There were so many people there. I mean, it was a real social event for me as well. More than anything, it wasn't just about the watches. It was a social
People.
event
Yeah.
to meet watch enthusiasts. There was a whole host of people there. There was Russell the Mad Watch Collector. There was Adrian Barker. There was Britt Pierce there. There was Andrew Morgan was there. The Ricky
You
and
saw
Dave,
Brit. I missed Brit because she probably must have got there after I went.
Ricky
Yeah.
and Dave from Scottish Watches. Andrew from Time and Tide helping Richard on Studio Underdog Store. But all these YouTube celebrities just having a good day out, just enjoying
Yeah, it's
themselves.
really good.
Just not hype promoting themselves, not hyping anything, and not really. They weren't live streaming or anything. They were just there taking photos for themselves, talking to the brand owners, um, enjoying a day out, looking at watches for themselves. And Lucy was there from
Cool.
Watchbox Diaries. Met up with everyone. It was great to meet Mark in person.
Yeah.
Who's on the streams normally on the stream. And it was just a lovely social atmosphere, social environment to meet people and like-minded people and just informally chat and say, what? Talk about the watch you're wearing. What are you wearing today? And what's your favorite stand? And the amount of different stands that were there. I mean, I don't know. What were your favorites? Did you have any favorites, John? Do you have any favorites that you
Well,
looked
I'm an
at?
Elliot Brown fan anyhow because I've got an Elliot Brown.
Uh-huh.
I tell you what, I did quite like, but I think the price was a bit too rich for me. The Brooklands. Did you see the
I
Brooklyns?
love the
The
Brooklyns.
Brooklyns, yeah, they were. I mean, it came in a lovely box and everything, and straight
Let me
away when I
pull that
looked
one up,
at it,
John.
yeah, straight when I
This
looked
one.
at it. So I'm going to ask Thomas. When you look at the what does the date window on the Brooklyns remind you of? If you try and bring that picture up a bit,
Well,
Yeah.
what does that date window remind you of straight away?
well, it's round, isn't it? But I don't know
Well,
where.
does it don't remind you? Oh, okay. Reminds me straight away of the number on the side of a racing car. The white,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the white
Is it
circle,
whole?
with the number in it, which is a racing car. It's Brooklands, isn't it?
It
Based on
is Brooklands. Brooklands a racing track, and
yeah,
Sir Terence Conran. This was his last, the last two things that Sir Terence Conran designed were
yeah.
two
Look at that.
watches for
That's beautiful,
Brooklands,
beautiful.
and
Design,
he
that.
designed this 444 chronograph with references to the 1950s racing car that was
Yeah,
Conran had watched the race of Brooklands, and it was called the Napier Railton, the car. And it was
yeah. I remember
powered,
now, but and yeah, I've seen pictures of Napier Railton. Yeah,
it was powered by a Napier Lion aircraft engine.
All right.
And so the rotor on the back is a reference to the Napier Lion aircraft engine with the finishing. The finishing is beautiful on the watches. Some might say
yes,
it's quite expensive. It's £5,750, but considering they're powered by a Celita SW500 manually wound movement, but the rotor has been customized, as I said, and is signed by Sir Terence. And it's, as I say, it's based on this part of this Napier Lion engine,
yeah.
aircraft
It's
Oh, yeah,
limited
looks
to
engine.
like a
500.
piston.
Limited to 500. I must admit, I thought the price was a bit rich for having because it had a Solita handline movement in it. Really, you know what I mean? It's not a.
But the finishing just looks gorgeous. It
It does.
really
The
does.
finishing is
Look
nice
gorgeous.
on the watch, absolutely. And the
Yeah.
bumps on the strap, they resemble the bumps on the Brooklyn circuit. They've got like some bumps out the
Right.
Brooklyn. It's like a testing circuit, so they've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that
That's
the
what
one
the
that was they built a housing estate over the top of it, and then is that the one James May did a scale extra track around? Remember he did that thing where he did James May when he did that Toy Stories thing, and he did he built a house out of Lego, and then he did scale extra track, and I think it was Brooklyn because it's no
was
longer
it?
active, is it? I think there's like a housing estate built over it.
I think something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Let me see if I can find that. But it does look nice.
It was a nice. Yeah, as it was just. Yeah, the whole show was just, as Tom said, just a great atmosphere. Absolutely, you know, everyone was buzzing with stuff. It was really good.
One stand I really was interested in was I bumped into this stand called Watch Supply, and they sell build your own watch kits for starting
Oh
at
yes,
£199, going up to £299, and they also do a watchmaking experience for £329 in London, where you can go down and they'll provide all the tools, all the parts, a seminar, and help for a day course for you to assemble your own watch. And so you
wow,
can
wow.
the watchmaking experience is you can build a GMT watch or use a bronze case for £379, which is a bit more. And so that's watchsupply.co.uk. Watch dash the supply.co.uk.
Look.
But that was a really interesting thing that I thought.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just watches, but if you really are that bit more interested in watches, you can. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, if you really are interested in watches, you can go that step further and get a group of friends together and go and get a group of watch nerds together
Build a watch.
Actually go on a day out and build a watch.
Build a
Oh,
watch.
they'd be
That
good
could
for like
good.
Not that we're affiliated with this company, but that'd be good for like a understated like bachelors do, wouldn't it? Like a stag.
Yes,
Yeah,
stag
yeah.
party or something. Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah. So it just to vindicate myself, it was James. So the James May did a TV show called Toy Stories, and it was the Brooklands track that they basically
Right.
laid Scalextric's track around the whole thing, because half of it's a housing estate now. It's a really cool episode. It must have been 12 years ago, so it was a long time ago. But you should definitely watch it if you're a fan of classic racing or a fan of Scalextric, because he built a huge Scalextric track around there. Awesome.
Got Grumpy Scotsman is asking what movement was in that Brooklyn jet. It said it's Salita SW 500 hand wind.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we had Al, said how much to hand deliver a pepperoni pizza? Well, they're only available at shows, aren't they? So Al, I think probably the closest to you would be the Chicago
Wind up.
Yeah, there's a list on his website of where he's been so far and where he is going, and it's quite varied.
Should we pull that up? You reckon it's on the website? Is it?
It is on the web. I've seen it on the website on the 100%. I've seen it today.
Let's have a look.
Pizza party. There we are. Okay, if you scroll further, it'll tell you where there's a list. Carry on.
Here we go. Yeah, spot on, John.
There you go. Where you can find Richard in 2024.
Yeah, so Chicago. So Al, your best bet, Chicago wind up the 12th to the 14th of July, and then I guess the closest I would get my hands on is
New York wind
up again in New York.
Yeah.
Because they're great watches. I mean, I looked at them, tried one on. They're lovely looking watches, great watches, and I mean, using the Seagull ST 1901 chronograph movement, it's a workhorse movement. And can easily be replaced if anything goes wrong with it. I mean, I'm sure Richard could maybe sort that out, or you could get an independent watchmaker to sort that out. But it's a cracking watch, and for the money, for 500 quid, it's an absolute bargain. I mean, all his watches are. The Mark II field watches they've got were lovely. They're really nice.
Yeah. A friend of mine just ordered one with this. I love to see the whole thing. Stephanie Blue. I think it's lovely. Can't call it Tiffany Blue. They call it Stephanie Blue, which is like straight away brilliant. Yeah.
I love the original Goofy Panda and the watermelon, and some really great stuff Richard's produced. And but I mean, they're big hitters there. There was Roger Smith was there, and his watches.
Did you get a chance to see? I know Mark posted some pictures on his Instagram. Did you guys get to see in person the limited edition Belcanto?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Patrick let us see it, and it's very nice. And I agree with him. It's easy to read with the Roman numerals.
Yeah.
I
have seen one with the Roman numerals. I've seen a limited edition one that was made for the collectors group that work for Google, and it does make the dial look. See, Mark's having the problem there because this is like the hardest to photograph watch because of the domed sapphire crystal on there.
Yeah.
But so it looks spectacular there. I know they were getting a little bit of a few people were making comments that they'd still not seen their Belcanto. So I think it was a show of force, wasn't it, that they did this? And I think they've been developing it for a while.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they did a couple of raffles. I think a friend of mine in the afternoon slot, he won one of the raffles where they announced 5 people, and the option was to buy a limited edition one of 10 Belcantos to put your name down for the raffle winners.
Were they the same price, Thomas? Do you remember? Were the same price as what?
£5,000, I think it was. So,
oh wow! Okay, so it's more expensive, perhaps. Than
right.
What they are.
5,000. Wow, because I thought the original Belcanto was about 3 in English pounds, about 3.2. It was
It
just
might
on
have been.
before.
It might have been €5,000 because my friend had come over from Ireland for the show, so he
Yeah, that's actually. I'm sure that. Yeah, John. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure that's more expensive than.
The
I
original.
may be wrong.
Yeah, because the standard bel canto is
£3,000, isn't it?
$3,900. But I mean,
Yeah.
we don't pay. There's not. There's you add 20% for VAT, and then you think it would be less in the British pounds.
I think it was 3.2 in Britain, from what I remember when it came out. I think it was 3.2, around 3.2 British, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I may be wrong on that price. I may be totally wrong. Mark would be able to put me right on
But
that.
I love that blue. You see, that purple dial's okay, but I love the original blue dial that it came out in. That was amazing. That special one, that same blue dial. Amazing.
I like the salmon. The salmon's my
Yeah,
favorite.
I've seen the. I think the salmon really suits it as well. I think it does. But you're right, John. It would be. My preference would have been the blue, but it's a big V saying he thought it was 3,500. So
Right. Okay.
Okay. Just I agree. The place? I said the place was absolutely rammed by about 11 o'clock, half 11. It was really, really busy. I went upstairs to get a drink and just look over the balcony and see how big. And it was so busy. Absolutely. Yeah, I can see why at least they limited it. At least they didn't try and cram, a massive amount of people in. It was, they had a cut-off point and they weren't
It was
scared to.
heaving, wasn't it, John? It was
Yeah.
heaving it, and it got really hot in the afternoon as well. It got really hot.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, but I'm glad they did a cut-off and they said like we can't have any more people. They didn't try and squeeze anybody in. It was what it is.
Yeah, the one in I'm just seeing if Brit put any photos on. I'm just seeing if anybody's put any photos on of yesterday.
Watch collector. I think he was there. I chatted with him. He might have put some up.
Oh yeah, I was helping. I was chatting with Russell this week.
Yeah, I was chatting with him and great bloke.
Kevin Roberts from Red Bar. He might have put some pictures up as well.
Okay.
Oh, obviously Scottish Watches they would have done because Ricky was taking pictures. Ricky had his camera with him, so he was taking pictures. So he might have had some on the he might have put something up.
John, the burning question: did you buy anything?
No.
I did.
Oh, go on.
Oh, a watch strap or a watch?
The watch.
Hey, cool. I thought you were cutting them down for your end of whatever watch. Now you're buying more. What's going on? Ooh, are we having unboxing tonight? Are we having unboxing now?
No, it's getting sent out to me on Monday. It's getting posted out to me on Monday, and that was from the brand Isotope. Jose from Isotope,
right.
great bloke. Jose from Isotope is a great bloke. I love him. He's a really nice gentleman, and he actually said that he's going to be doing a second collaboration with Second.
Got your little top tip there.
The end of this year, he's going to be doing it sometime at the end of this year. He did one previous, and it was a limited edition of 50, and it sold out straight away. And I've gone and bought the Hydrium Alba, which is the Scottish Watches collaboration.
Yeah, this is this one.
White dial, yeah, the white dial.
Yeah.
So I've gone and bought Scottish Watches collaboration.
Wow.
Yeah, this is I just managed to catch Scottish Watches Wednesday show, and they were talking about the Isotope clock.
Yeah,
So I think you can buy it on its own. It looks like that's a bit of a combo deal there, but I think it can. And Dave was saying that apparently the entire clock face is luminous material.
Yeah,
and it will glow for like 24 hours or something crazy, or 12 hours.
Wow.
It will glow throughout the entire night.
Yeah, Jose does some great stuff from Isotope. Jose Miranda is such a lovely man to chat to.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna have to be careful here because, like, with Nicholas for ages, I was saying, you know, if you ever make a watch with a date on it, I'll buy it. I better stop saying that now because Nicholas did, and I and I obviously bought it straight away.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to be
Yeah.
very
Hey,
careful.
Thursday just released this California dial, which was on there. The California dial watch, which is a really
that
nice one as well. And I'm a huge fan of California dials. I was up in the air. Shall I get the California dial? I haven't got one yet. I really want one. Should I get the Scottish watches? And it had to be Dave's the man on the show. Got
Yeah,
to pay respect to Dave. Scottish watches all the way.
awesome. I'm gonna add Pete in. Pete joined early. Pete, welcome.
Hey,
Good to see
Sorry,
you.
I messed up the times a bit, Pete. So I appreciate you joining.
actually, I was awake and just about ready to go. But if you can look over my shoulder, you can see there's a bed.
Oh yeah.
This is also our spare bedroom, and my daughter came to hide here from the heat last night. It's been like 40 degrees Celsius in Melbourne the last couple of days,
Ooh.
and her flat hasn't got air conditioning. So
Oh, dear.
yeah, I lost my studio for a couple of hours.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think I always tell that people in the US when we see the news stories that there's a heat wave in the UK and everyone's like, oh, it's not really that cold. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't remember none of the houses, hardly any houses have air conditioning in the UK. It's heating
Yeah.
or a fan, a portable fan.
Yeah.
So
My daughter is in her just moving out, living in an apartment all by herself phase. And at that phase, you can't afford a place with air conditioning.
Wow, is that true? Yeah, I don't think there's ever. I think that would be inhumane in Florida to have somewhere that didn't have a air conditioning. I think you'd have one of those.
Oh, we're hotter than Florida. So it's just a thing. Young people, they get over it. Or they move back with their parents when it gets too hot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've definitely got some stories about the first few houses that I lived in, but that's for another show that will never be made. So, Pete, we were just hearing about the British Clock and Watchmakers event. So we've talked about Studio Underdog had like apparently an overwhelming response on the day for the pizza watch, and then we've been discussing Christopher Ward's limited edition 10 bell cantos, and then Thomas was just saying that he ended up buying an Isotope watch there.
Yeah, from a distance, I've been hearing a lot of buzz about Isotope. There's been a lot of people saying that Fears and Isotope won the British Clock and Watchmakers show, sort of from the other side of the world. Interesting. Isotope's a brand I've looked at occasionally and skated close to, but never quite bought.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting brand.
Yeah. But I think, John, you would say in the winner you think is was Studio Underdog.
I think it's Richard by
Oh, you've gone off. Your audio's off.
It was gone.
Your audio's off. Yeah.
How do you mean off? Not working at all?
You sound like you're miles away.
All right, hang on. Sorry.
Is it because your microphone's at the top of your head?
No, I'm supposed to be using. I've got this one here. Unless you swapped over. Hang on a minute.
Okay. Well, while John sorts that, there you go.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I want you to switch back. Right. I moved it out of the way because I was using this one, but obviously was using that one for some reason. Right. Okay. Yes, definitely. I walked around all the time. I said at one point, I walked around looking for Mark because Patrick said to me, "Mark's here." I said, "Oh, where is it?" He said, "Look out for him. He's wearing bright yellow trainers." So I remember doing a couple of circuits, just looking at people's feet, just to try seriously, just to try and spot the bright yellow trainers, because he did have bright yellow trainers on. So, looking around, and Richard had the biggest queue out of everybody. There were all the queues for other people, but I think Richard had the biggest queue.
Yeah, that could be the difference between like online buzz versus in real life responses. Like from my perspective, looking in from a long way away, did Studio Underdog deliver anything we haven't seen before?
Not new, no. But the pizza watch has only been the one that he came on Sam's show a couple of weeks ago, is only available at the show. So that was the hype. So he'd gone up and he said, if you want one, you literally got to be at a show and have it hand delivered. So that's how he did it. He built the hype up. And that's what
I
worth
think
doing for, I think.
Yeah, and I think that if you're not at the show, the pizza watch is just a watch you've already seen before. And I think
that's right. Yeah.
And I think the reason why perhaps Isotope has been getting a lot of buzz is even if they didn't do anything new, they don't get spoken about a lot. So when they start getting spoken about, all this new product just emerges on your radar screen, and you suddenly see all this new stuff you haven't seen before, which for the online watch community is like, that's just blood in the water for our social media sharks. New stuff that we haven't seen before generates buzz. Even if it's not that new, we just haven't looked at it before.
Yeah. Well, Pete, both Thomas and John got to meet your favorite YouTuber. They got to meet Brit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't meet. No, I missed Brit. I knew she was supposed to be going, but I went before she got there. No, I didn't see her. Thomas did.
I didn't meet her. No, I didn't meet her. I just knew
okay.
That's in the cafe.
Did you see her?
No.
Oh, I mean, she said she was going, but I haven't spoke to anybody yet who actually saw her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's pregnant anyhow, so she may have been ill. You know.
I was going to say, given the recent news and the fact that the videos always lag reality, so I'm guessing she's a couple of weeks further on than she was when those videos came out.
Yeah, and she said she was
wouldn't
going
be surprised.
on that video. On that video, she did say she was going to that show on the bump video, but she could have been ill or whatever. So, never actually got to say. So I saw Adrian, same as what Thomas did, and Russell. I said our own star, Mark. It was really good. It was definitely a great show.
I saw the opposite studio underdog were Vertex, which I spoke to Don Cochran from Vertex, and he said he's bringing out a new watch soon.
I saw the Vertex, and I just thought I think they should have brought out a true to size Dirty Dozen type one. I saw the one they had there, and it was too big. How big is that? Is that?
That's what he's bringing out. He's bringing out a Dirty Dozen reissue.
Wow, with the correct size. That's wow. I should have asked him about that because I said, is it that one on the left at the top? How big is that? Is that 40? That one currently, Thomas. The one at that one. How big is that? It definitely is.
I'm not sure.
Let's have a look here.
40. Said it's coming up to the 80th anniversary of the or the 70th anniversary, I think. I can't remember.
1945, so whatever,
coming up to the anniversary of an anniversary of the original Dirty Dozen watch, Vertex watch. So it's going to release true to form.
That'll be nice. Hand wind only. It's going to be hand wind.
I'm not too sure. I would imagine so. Yeah.
What movements in this one? Sorry, Sam. Can you just have a look on that?
We've got SW260-1 Solita.
Is that? Does a picture of does it say whether that's hand wind or not? Because I'm one of these sticklers. When someone brings out, especially when a company brings out a reissue of one they've done, I'm a stickler for the size. 100%, it has to be the correct size. And if they can put hand wind movement in, it should be a hand wind movement. I think so.
Yeah, definitely. So this is 40. It's an automatic. And then, David Remus is saying, Vertex has said they're planning a 36mm Dirty Dozen to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Right. Yeah, but if they're going to put that same movement in as in that M100, then it's going to be... it's going to be an automatic, and it needs to be a hand wind, I think.
I would imagine it'd be hand wind if it's repeated.
Yeah, that'll be really nice. That'll be, but I don't know how much it's going to be because the Vertex isn't one of the most expensive Dirty Dozens secondhand, is it, Thomas? You can probably pick one up for.
You can pick one up for £1,000 secondhand.
Yeah, 1,000, 1,500. A real minter for 1,500 quid. So
less than that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so if they're going to charge $2.5 grand for that one, the purists, myself and Thomas included, are going to turn around and say, "Well, it's great, but just buy an original." There's always someone in this country to service it. There's always people around who will service it. It's not a hard move to service.
And when you mean original, you mean one from
I mean, a
1940,
1940, 45, dirty dozen. The hardest ones to get are the
Granas.
which one?
Grana.
Grana, that's right. The hardest ones are the Grana. There's only 1,500 Granas made. And they're like, there's one the other day going for 22 grand. But yeah, but the Vertex ones are I think they're the ones that I seem to see the most, maybe the Amigas. So they're like, yeah, they're grand £1,500. And they're easy to service. There's nothing complicated about it. So the purists would say, if you can find one, go and buy an original.
Yeah. I forgot, Pete. I forgot to do your wristwatch check when you joined.
Oh, okay.
What you wearing?
I am wearing my Alpina Extreme 43 or whatever it is, 42.
That's nice.
Wow.
So, that one
gets a lot of wrist time, that for you, doesn't it? Considering your vast collection.
Yeah, it probably gets on every month or so. I'd wear it. Which, given that I've got 80-something watches, means it's sort of getting above and beyond its normal.
I was going to say, how many
wear.
80. Wow, I thought I was mad with about 50-something. 50.
Yeah, hang on.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 boxes, each with 14 spots in them, and another box with 24 spots. And then there are some leftovers. But that gives you some idea of
I've got
sort of how many watches.
I've got 50-something. I can't remember. I did a count a few weeks ago, but then I ended up getting given a watch, and then buying a couple off Sam to get his cast offs.
It was the Alpina is an interesting watch. Go on, Thomas.
I was just going to say G-Shocks don't count, John.
Yes, you do.
Sorry, Pete. Carry on.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting watch. It's a watch that made me really think hard about my position on bracelets. I still aren't really a bracelet fan. I'll go for a NATO or rubber 99 times out of 100. But if I'm going to wear a bracelet, I wear it as a bracelet, not as a metallic band. And I think that's a real fashion change that's happened recently, that people have started wearing bracelets much tighter than they were worn in the past.
Yeah.
And as a result, that's why micro adjusts have suddenly started becoming important. People don't wear bracelets anymore. They wear metallic bands.
Yeah.
I like my bracelet to be a bracelet. It fits completely differently. It's a little bit loose. Like Grand Seiko says, there's a good finger's width between, you can hold it up and let it hang, and it'll be a good finger's width between my wrist and the clasp.
Yeah. I used to wear my watch over the knuckle. My mate used to tell me, you wear your watch too far down the wrist. It needs to be on over the the other side of the knuckle. And now I do that now. I used to, first of all, when I met him a few years ago, I used to wear it too far, and he said, "No, you're wearing it wrong. It used to be."
No, you're not wearing it wrong. You're wearing it right. That's how I like to wear it.
What,
nice and low and a little loose. That's how bracelets should be.
I like mine. Tighter. This new Fears you'll see is I just realized I'd actually put the Fears. I put the bracelet back on the wrong way around. Put it on upside down. Anyway.
Yeah, I should trigger mine sometime when I've done that. I do that on my. It takes ages to put a bracelet on sometimes. I've done it wrong before now.
Yeah,
sometimes I've left it. It's taking me absolutely ages, and I've got it the wrong way around. So do I swap it or do I change it? And it triggers me sometimes.
Well, this has got.
I realized. So go on.
Sorry, I was just saying this has got quick release on it. But to your point about it being a metal band, I've been reviewing this Forstner, and it literally the best way I could describe it is that it is a metal NATO strap.
Yes,
got the little catch there, and then it's
I've got one. I have one on my Speedy.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, for me, the thing that got me, the thing that made me think everyone else is wearing their bands wrong, their bracelets wrong, was when people were really critical of butterfly clasps, because a butterfly clasp can't really have micro adjust.
Yeah.
And they're saying that's why they have no place, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to hold this up to the camera. This is why a butterfly clasp is the best clasp. Look how thin that is.
Yeah.
You know, hold that big fat stonking clasp you're wearing on your watch up. That is so uncomfortable. You can't wear it while you're typing. You have to take the watch off. Yeah, wear it a little loose, and get rid of that big fat clasp with all its unnecessary micro adjust, and you've got a much more comfortable watch.
Yeah, I like the mic. I like the micro just on this. Also, a little tease here. I can't actually show what's in here, but Zelos have sent me a watch that I can't show until tomorrow. But their micro just on the clasp is spring loaded. So you basically pull it down, pull this down, and then move it back and forth. It's quite ingenious. I mean, this Spheres is good, and the one on Jack Mason is perfect, and the Christopher Ward. So I like the so do you have any that have the micro just on the clasp, Pete, that you like wearing a little bit tighter? Or
I have one on a watch, but I took that band off. So funnily enough, my Breitling Super Ocean came on rubber, but the rubber comes with a deployant with a quick adjust system, which is fine. But as always, it makes the clasp too thick. So I've only found one clasp that's the right thickness and has micro adjust. Unfortunately, it's a $50,000 watch. It's a Vacheron. But I think the price for me of putting micro adjust in the clasp always makes the clasp too big.
No, Jack Mason do it really well. Kent's asking me, we have to see the new Zelos. I can't show it yet. I'll show you the back. It's got that's the micro adjust, but I can't show you the front.
He said he's seen it. He's questioned we have seen the new Zelos. So he's saying
we have seen. Oh, okay. Well, let me just check actually, because if you have seen it, I might be able. I've been no, I can't. I've been asked not to show it till tomorrow. So between the 11th and the 18th.
It
is the 11th.
Oh, yeah, well, you nearly got me.
It is the 11th.
It's 11th somewhere in the world. That's right. Correct. Yeah. You could literally go on Archie's and show it because it's 11th.
Yeah. What are you talking about? It's 20 past 8 in the morning.
Yeah. Pete, it's interesting what you're saying. Your Super Ocean had the rubber with a clasp on, because I've got a Super Ocean 44 with a rubber, and it's got a normal buckle on it.
Yeah. Well, have you got the older model?
Yes, about 2019, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So the new one that Sam doesn't like with the marshmallow, the marshmallow minute hand,
cheese on a stick.
That comes. Yeah.
I didn't pay for mine.
It still blows me away.
I didn't pay for mine, though, Pete. I got it given.
Yeah. It still blows me. Yeah. It still blows me away that you don't like that, but you'll tolerate Cyclops.
Oh, I tell you, let me find that. I did a mock-up, didn't I? I did one where it was like cheese on a stick, and the other one where it's like an olive on a stick. Yeah, I can't. There's just something about. I even honestly, Pete, that cruise that I was on a couple of weeks ago, they had a case full of them, and I just couldn't. And then, but they had it next to the previous generation one, and it made me really appreciate. I was like, God, that previous one was really cool.
Yeah, that's why I've got both.
Yeah, and I was really tempted as well, because they had the 44, and I always thought the 44 would be like monstrously big, but it isn't the previous Super Ocean 44, because it's so thin. And the Breitling have this amazing job of making really chunky bracelets, but that feel perfect. Like
I think Breitling, in fact, watch brands around the world suffer from the fact that we are really slow to change our minds. We watch enthusiasts are fixed in the past, and we don't realize that brands aren't what we think they are. There's the new Omega white dial that came out. Virtually everyone has made a comment about, oh, and it's not a limited edition, and we all know how Omega love their limited editions. Omega haven't put out a limited edition in almost 4 years.
Yeah.
But we're too stupid to pick up on it.
Yeah, because that Speedy Tuesday stuff that they were knocking them out. People still remember that, don't they? The Speedy Tuesday stuff, and they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's often, brands stop doing things years before, but we can't get it out of our heads that they're still doing it. We can't get out of our heads that Breitlings are always really big and chunky and blingy. We can't get it out of our heads that Omega does limited editions. When all of that stuff stopped.
Yeah. Yeah, you would, because even the Snoopy and stuff like that, they're just limited production, aren't they? And the white dial apparently is going to be. I mean, Dave was saying over on Scottish Watches that the white dial is going to be that there should be stock at most of the major boutiques. For how long?
Yeah, it was available. I saw. I mean, Kevin from Red Bar, Kevin Roberts, he teased in a group with it on his wrist, and I really thought he had gone out and bought one because he's in with Amiga and he gets offered stuff. So when I said to him yesterday, I said, "Have you got the Amiga with you, the white one? Did he buy it?" He goes, "I didn't buy it." I said, "Was it available if you wanted to?" Yeah, he said, "Yeah, I could have bought it. He could have bought it on that day if he wanted." So there were some places that had it in.
Yeah. I definitely will have another Speedmaster, I think, in the future, but I'm still not comfortable with how expensive they've got recently because I just think it's because it was always that like cool watch that you would see like engineers would wear, and I wore one for 10 years, and I paid this was 13 years ago. I paid like £1,500 for it, and that was secondhand, so I'm not expecting it to be that price.
No.
But now what they get like $8,000, just shy of $8,000 US.
Well, secondhand about 5. I got my less. So would you have Hesselite or Sapphire Sandwich? That is the question.
This is a good discussion topic.
Whole new show.
Yeah, this is a good discussion topic because I'm sure Pete, you've got a comment, an opinion on this one. Is for 10 years I had an Omega Speedmaster. Didn't have a date on it. It had Hesselite, and honestly, I was as happy as I could be. I fixed the. If you ever saw that video, I fixed the deployant broke here. The clasp broke here, and I fixed it with a paper clip and super glue. So for like 5 years, I owned it. There was a paper clip attaching it, and then when I started getting into watches, I got really like into all the inner workings of it. Then I started really liking the date on a watch, and then the kiss of death for that Speedmaster was when I put it on a time grapher, and then I realized I had to get it serviced, and then once it was serviced, it came back like this precious, glistening jewel, and I just didn't look at it the same way because I'd always had it battered. I mean, when I got it, it was already all scratched, and I had the Hesselite replaced once, but yeah, it was it's funny how the more I got into watches, the more particular I've got about stuff.
So how can you wear a Speedy now when he hasn't got a date on it?
Well, exactly. That's why I sold it. And
yeah, so now you're not going to have a Speedy. You said a minute ago you're going to have a Speedy again.
No, because they do those dated ones, don't they? The bi-compacts.
Okay. You're going to get them. Okay, you're not going to get
not the George Clooney, not the Clooney.
You're not going to get a proper Speedy, then, are you? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is funny what you say there about as I think people go in two different directions, and there's that famous graph about what people do. You start off not knowing, and then you get your first Swiss, and then you get a Seiko, and then you get a Rolex, and then that graph where you fall off the edge.
Yeah,
I actually think you can simplify that down a little bit to. There's a moment where you come into it not knowing anything, just being inspired a little bit by the story and a lot by just, hey, that looks like a nice watch. I like that. And then you go through a phase where it's got to have this, and it's got to have this, and it's got to have this, and it's got to have this. You enter a kind of a spec checklist phase.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people stay there, but I think a lot of people just get through and go, I don't care about the specs. Just make me a pretty watch. Yeah. And that's very much what I've got to now. I don't care about the specs. I don't do that game of, hey, but this has got the same movement as that. It should be the same price.
Yeah.
Make me a really pretty watch that I can afford, and I'll buy it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I bought this Braemont, and I never really liked Braemont, the brand. I didn't like what they were about. The silly marketing things that they did in the past. But I've like never been happier like for the last 6 weeks. I thought I would be like, I get it. I got a good deal on it, and thought, I could probably sell it if I don't like it because I got a good deal on a cruise ship. But yeah, absolutely awesome watch.
Take care.
Yeah,
Good to see you
yeah,
later.
Rich. Cool. Yeah, so like never been happy with this Braemont, which is weird.
You still haven't said whether you're going to have a Hazelite or sapphire sandwich. Though, on you. What would you go for?
You know what? Sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I bought a Laurier and I couldn't stand that it had Heslite.
Really?
I couldn't, but yeah, it seemed on the Omega that I used to. This is how like unwatch person I was. I fixed it with a paperclip, and I used to take Brasso to the Heslite and
toothpaste
buff
works
the
on a
scratches
Heslite.
out.
Toothpaste or that stuff you that what's it called? That stuff.
Polywatch.
Yeah, Polywatch.
Polywatch.
It just works. Polywatch works. I have saved. I just don't mind it because Polywatch just absolutely works. It's worked for me loads of times. So yeah.
And mine was so odd because it had sapphire on the back. It was an exhibition case back, which was odd for a Speedmaster of that generation. It was a 99 or sort of 99 or maybe it was like 90, like maybe it was 97 or 98, but it had sapphire and then a Heslite on the front, so it was like a bit of a mix for one that was of that age.
I think they all do that, don't they? If they have, all the Omegas, they have like a Heslite, or some other brands will even do a mineral crystal on the front, but they always do a sapphire on the back.
Yeah, this one was odd because I think at that time, this was a special edition because at that time they were Heslite on the front, but they always had the closed case back with what is that on the back? It's like a sea dragon or something, is it?
Hippocampus, I think.
Yeah, hippocampus, but you can't get a proper Moonwatch Heslite with a clear back. That's what you have to buy. You can buy it as a company, make it like £100, and they make a clear back for it, which you can actually.
No, this was factory.
Yeah.
This was a factory one.
But it wasn't a proper Moonwatch, though, was it? That's the thing.
It was a Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. But they don't do it anymore.
I'll get you the reference number because I've forgotten. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Hi, Dave.
Dave's got the voice of someone who's been talking all day.
This is the voice of someone who has had less than 5 hours sleep in 3 days. So yes.
Oh mate.
Oh wow.
No.
Illusions. Delusions actually more than illusions.
Well, let's start you off with an easy one. What you're wearing?
What am I wearing? It's actually, oh Jesus, I've just looked at my eyes. They look like pea holes in the snow. I am wearing this.
Ooh, there we go. Right on cue. Just talking about the Speedmaster.
Yeah, I heard, just as I joined, I heard you talking about display case back. So yes, this one. Get it right, David. This one has a display case back.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, so beautiful.
There we go. So yes, that's what I've been wearing for the last couple of days, really, actually.
And yeah, awesome. And then you went to the British Watch and Clockmakers event.
Yes, gotta watch how you say that sometimes, especially when you're tired. Yes, actually, it was outstanding. Outstanding is the only way I can describe it. I think it's, I've been really lucky. Obviously, I get to go to a lot of shows. I think Dubai Watch Week still wins hands down across the board as a show format and what they do and everything else. But certainly that was by far and away the best show the UK's had in many, many, many years. And yeah, I mean, not as professional as something like Watches and Wonders from a point of view of spit and polish and shiny stands and all that kind of malarkey. But from an engagement point of view for the general public, it was just outstanding. Most of these shows, it's busy at the start and it kind of quickly wanes and there's a few lost souls that wander about, and this just stayed rammed busy the entire day. So yeah, really, really good, really good. And all the stands were engaging with each other, both businesses talking to each other and clients talking to people. So yeah, it was just really good. Like I think it was actually Mike from Christopher Ward. He pointed out, he said, it's rare to see a trade show where someone will be talking to, I don't know, let's just say Isotope, and he says, oh, these are lovely, but not really my thing. This is what I like. And, you know, you'll see Jussi go, oh, well, go over and see these guys over there. They've probably got the kind of thing that you'd like, you know, and that's really nice to see that kind of behavior at a show where ultimately the guys there are your competitors. So yeah, it was really, really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, so John and Thomas were saying at the start that they thought one of the standout winners was Studio Underdog, just by the sheer volume of people that were at the stand. Was
I think that's inarguable from the point of view of, you know, for quite a young brand. I mean, at the end of the day, it's only a couple of years old at the end of the day, and he's just a genius when it comes to, like, I guess, guerrilla marketing, because that's really the only way you could describe it. You know, there's definitely a lot of thought put into it, but he definitely attacks it in a very unexpected manner. You know, I guess nobody expected him to manufacture the pizza watch, which was at the end of the day an April Fool's joke, you know. And then the model that he's kind of developed to deliver that, as in person only, from him or Andrew McCutcheon, whose idea they kind of come up with together. And it's no limitation. It's just if you're at an event and you talk to him, you know, just done in a really innovative, well thought out way, whether you love or detest the watch, because let's be honest, it's Marmite. But also when it comes to marketing, everyone's talking about it, whether you love it or hate it. So it's a, you know, the grail of marketing, have something that gets you huge attention in the general public and on, you know, things like this and press cycles and your Hodinkis and your Fratellos, and folk pay for it and pay for it making a profit at the same time. You know, it's genius. And, you know, I think as you guys said, there was a bit of a mad rush to get there. I think there was probably folk beginning to think, maybe if I'm not quick, I don't get one. But I think most folk that wanted one on the day did get one, or at least certainly if they didn't physically walk away with it, they'll be getting one in the very near future. And there was nothing quite like seeing Rich and Andrew McCutcheon dressed up looking like two kind of like poor seconds from like the Mario Brothers. It was just superb.
And I was just saying before that actually, you know, at one point Richard's busy signing, autographing boxes, pizza boxes. It's like, you know, who asked the watchmaker really to, apart from like, okay, Roger Smith was doing that, but I don't know of anybody else who signed autographs apart from Roger Smith.
But you know, I think that's a good point, right? So yeah, you know, there was a lot of folk there who are, you know, famous within the sphere of watches. Let me put it like that. You know, if you said Roger Smith to 99% of the 99.99% of the general public, they'll go, who? You know, but when it comes to watches, most folk have half an idea who he is. And, you know, quite, I guess he has some fame stroke infamy, quite rightly, because, you know, he's arguably in the top 0.1 percentile of living watchmakers that are right at the top of their game. And when you see like a young kid that's been in business for 3 years and makes watches with pizzas on the dial, probably being more sought after than Roger Smith in a room full of people. You know, it's just, I can't. And when you know Richard, or even if you just meet Richard, he's just a nice guy. You know, there is nothing about him that's bad. You know, it's just great to see that kind of thing happen. And loads of other brands that just getting really good, like Christopher Ward was just rammed the whole time. Fears was rammed the whole time. You know, and actually for me, quite a lot of brands that maybe I didn't quite expect to get the attention they did, like Bowcroft, you know, very young company, probably a year old, if that, maybe. They make watches that are, from a technical perspective, and I'm choosing my words carefully here. From a technical perspective, they're nothing special. They're very basic, you know, 300 to 400 pound watches, but they kind of do their own dial thing and they do some customizations. But they've got some very, very good looking watches, and they were busy the whole time. And I watched and I knew a couple of folk that bought watches from them there, and these aren't people that play in the £200-300 watch category. You know, there was one guy actually was buying one from them wearing a rose gold Patek 5712. So, you know, it's just nice to see that. That was the, I guess that kind of summed up the room. You know, it wasn't about expensive. It wasn't about how little money you had or anything like that. It was just, do you like watches? That was kind of it.
I found the same, Dave. I mean, the brand said, Edward Christopher, they've been going 3 months. And they had a stamp pressed guilloche dial, super compressor case with coloured rubber straps. And they were selling them quite cheap, nice divers. And but going 3 months, and people were getting really interested, you know, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
You got people who've been there for established brands and young brands who are doing quite nice watches, you know. And
and getting the attention, you know, people were taking the time to engage with them, talk to them, see what was going on. So yeah, it was nice to see, and obviously there was a lot of the more well-established brands that were there as well.
I'm sorry, is a collab between Edward Christopher and Christopher Ward just mandatory?
Yeah, it's just got to happen.
You need to have the Christopher.
Yeah, the
Edward Christopher Ward.
That has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's asking for it, isn't it? It is asking for it, you know. And it's like, I think what was quite interesting as well was, you know, there was a very mixed bag of people there. You know, everything from folk who kind of just get into watches, folk who, you know, have been into watches a long time, and everything in between. And you know, like Christopher Ward's, you know, a lot of the brands did a special edition, and it might have been as simple as like Roger Smith did one, and the way you could get it was whoever bid the highest for it. But let's be honest, it's a £500,000 watch, so it's a pretty small pool of people that will be bidding for it. But you know, whoever bid the highest for it got the chance to buy that watch. But the watch was there. Like you know, how often can you walk into somewhere and buy a Roger Smith? It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, Christopher Ward did 10 pieces. Some brands did 25, some did 50, some did 100. But Christopher Ward did their Belcanto, and it was 10 pieces. And what they did was because the day was split into two, there was a morning session and an afternoon session. They split it 5 and 5. And they decided the fairest way to do it wasn't a run and grab, first come, first serve. It was anyone in the morning session could scan a QR code and put their name in the virtual hat. And at the end of the morning session, 5 names get pulled out. And they were being fair. If they'd gone home, it wasn't a problem. As long as they'd registered properly, they would be contacted and offered, do you wish to buy the watch? Which was really nice. And actually in the morning session, you know, James Dowling, who, you know, on Instagram is Mr. Rolex, you know, he's been in the journalism game for a long time, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to certain topics. He put his name in for it, and he actually, it wasn't a fix. His name was pulled out, and he bought one. You know, so when you've got, you know, folk who very much definitely play in a different ballpark generally than say Christopher Ward are actively entering the competition to try and get the chance to win one, I think that says quite a lot for what's going on there.
Absolutely,
yeah. They've done they're amazing. I mean, they were saying buzz at wind up for the Christopher Ward. You know, I've seen the Christopher Ward watches. They were packed that whole time for that as well.
It definitely had a vibe. It definitely had a vibe of kind of the wind up fair. It was that general type of vibe going on about it. I think possibly the difference is in the US when that show happens, it's a lot of people very actively kind of, there's a lot of haggling goes on. You know, there's a kind of lot of, much as that watch, oh, it's 1,000. I'll give you 800 for it. No, it's 1,000. Well, I'll give you 750 for it. No, you don't go down the way, you know, and it's like, all right, I'll come back at the end of the day, and they just don't come back, or they do come back and offer you 250, you know. There was a lot more, I think, mutual respect going on at that show from that side of things. It wasn't quite as frenetic.
Yeah, I think at the wind up as well, I definitely noticed being a YouTuber that they were more. It was definitely a selling event. So you were, if they knew who I was, they were more or less being like, "Oh, I'll chat to you later," or "I'll see you later on."
Yeah, it was a commercial event. The wind up, yeah. Whereas this, definitely, there was stuff there to be bought. There was some brands who had no stock to buy there because they were just showing stuff off. There was other brands who very much did have stock there, you know.
Was there any watch that like surprised you when you got to see it in person?
Well, actually, one of my favourite things was something that had launched a couple of days before, actually, and it was from Isotope. And it's, you know, like I really quite like the aesthetic of their kind of diver watch, the Hydrium and the Hydrium X ones that they do. And they did, in fact, you can see the sign hanging about here. They did the Will Return, which is kind of based on this classic sign. And actually, although that's not particularly specifically American, what he had done was this. You can see it there, the clock. He did this Will Return a few years ago, completely sold out, but he's done a wall clock, as you can see here, which he launched, but it's fully loomed 34 centimeter wall clock based exactly on the watch, made out of aluminium, fully loomed, and it's not super luminova, it's like a Japanese equivalent, but it's a proper full watch loom style dial on it as well. 175 quid. It's an absolute winner.
I like that. I do. I must admit, I like that. And he could do the wall clock. I do like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like 175 is not insignificant. It's 175 quid at the end of the day, but you know, it's just a really cool thing because 9 times out of 10, when you see those, they're items that have been given to press or very high spending customers, you know, and you can't usually buy them. And he's put a lot of thought and effort and time and everything into this. Even like the little edges round the hands are loomed. So at night you can read. It's just a great looking little thing, you know. So that he had the prototype there, so that was cool to see in real life.
It's not limited at all, that clock, is it? The clock is
limited by he left sales open for I think 6 days, and anyone that ordered it within the 6-day window could get one. And that, from memory, they'll all be numbered and signed. He will bring back a different version as a stock line in the future,
okay.
But that one is like an exact replica of the actual original Will Return watch, which you can see kind of the one sitting beside it isn't the original. The one but sitting beside it is like a new version, but the one that's got the blue bezel in it, the Will Return, is what that's based on.
So it looks like it's still. I wonder if we can actually. I wonder if it's actually.
I think end of today. I think possibly is when it finishes.
Yeah, I think
that's
it
really
is
cool.
midnight today.
Yeah. I think it's midnight UK time today. So there's another what's that, like 4 hours or so, something like that, to run on it.
I vaguely remember someone talking about this. Is there a deal if you buy the watch and the clock? The clock is
yeah. So the watch is like the version 2 because
like an ad.
Yeah, his wee story of how it came about is quite cool. So basically, he was in he's not at the time. I think he said it was about 20 years ago. His main business was he owned a television production company that I think that mainly did adverts and such like, based in Portugal. He's Portuguese, and he sold that business a couple of years back now, and he's always been into watches. So he started Isotope as a kind of like post selling of his business career model, and he'd been in the States 20 years ago, and he'd seen basically these signs, and he'd nothing to do with watches then, and he loved it and he bought it. And it was only a couple of years ago, he said, I found an envelope and I opened it, and what was inside, sure enough, was this sign. Wow. And he just looked at it and he said, that'd make a cool watch, just like a really weird but cool watch. So he did it, and he called it Will Return, and he made 100, and folk went mental for them. But when you got the watch, he actually commissioned these as well. So everyone that got a watch got one of these as well, and you can properly set the wrong side. You can set the time here, like you can just do what you want and set the time. And it comes with a little chain for hanging it on your door and everything else. Just really cool. But so many folk have been asking him for it that he's done a kind of like, he actually found a red version of the sign that some folk use as well. So he's done like a kind of modified version of it, but he's done it with the same as the clock. 6 days. Anyone that orders in 6 days gets one, and then it's done.
Yeah, it looks like you're right, Pete. There is a package deal. There's one Will Return red and one Will Return clock. Will Return. Will Return clock.
So yeah, so that I saw that. So seeing that was pretty cool. What else was good? Christopher Ward obviously had some cool stuff. They did give us a sneak peek of something that we're not allowed to talk about, but that's coming soon.
I like those Sinclair Harding clocks that when they stand next to.
Oh man, they were mind blowing, weren't they?
Next to George, not George. Who am I talking about?
Oh, it's this. Let me just
Roger
find
Smith.
it. What
Roger Smith.
They were beside Roger Smith.
these
beside Roger
ones?
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing clocks, Sinclair Harding, and they ticked. They had weights, counterweights, which were ticking away, and several different designs, but they're fascinating.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of, you know, I think most folks still kind of look at mantelpiece clocks as a bit old school fuddy duddy, don't they? And when you actually look, there's this kind of stuff. There's the MB&F style stuff out there as well. You know, I think there's the Atmos from JLC and stuff like that. You know, but when you look at the intricacy of these, you know, I guess they are kind of like living pieces of art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet my granddad always used to be into clocks more than watches. He got me into my love for watches because he also liked watches, but his real passion was the clocks, the mantle clocks.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, there was. I'm actually, my head's that melted. I'm that tired, but I've forgotten something that I've seen. But there was genuine, like Vertex had some cool stuff. You know, some of the Vertex pieces were really nice.
It was nice to see Simon Fries. He's a British watchmaker, famous for. He's a bit legendary in the Omega world for fixing Omegas.
That's right.
As a watchsmith for fixing Omegas, and he's finally brought out his own watch, which was like a sort of. He's made his own case. He's using a Selite SW200 in it, but he's made his own case, and it's really nice to actually meet these people that you've known and you've sent your watches to get service to, who are actually starting up in the watch world, making their own watches. And
I mean, they were saying it's going to be bigger and better next year because they worked out real fast that it needs to be 2 days next year and it needs to be a bigger venue because I think roughly 45 brands were there, and I think there's circa 80 or 90 member brands. And I'm pretty sure there's a number of brands probably thought, let's see how successful it is before we decide to go. I think there'll be most of them probably kicking themselves that they didn't go to it once they see the pictures and the kind of demand on it. So they're talking about a bigger space and 2 days next year. So it was effectively a runaway success from the moment it opened.
That's really cool. Pete, is there any watch shows your neck of the woods?
No. I've been watching the British Watch and Clockmakers. Did I get that right? Show with some degree of envy. One, we're not going to get to do something like that in Australia. We're just too far away from each other. So, we're just too spread out. It's never going to happen. And secondly, for all of the things I love about Australia, we're a bit lazy when it comes to like making stuff. It's too easy to dig shit out of the ground and sell it to China. And so we tend not to invest in making stuff. And so we're not going to have an industry like this.
Yeah.
Maybe when the Chinese collapse completely, and God forbid we actually have to do something ourselves with all our lithium and all our uranium and all our, then we might be okay.
Yeah, the problem, like unlike the rest of the world, Pete, is you're never you could dig from now to the end of the earth, and you probably won't run out of stuff.
We will never run out of stuff.
Yeah, like opals and everything. They've just found a massive lithium in California somewhere. They reckon there's billions, but that's a conversation for another time. Well, Dave, one thing you did get to see though is you got to see the white Speedmaster, did you? Or from afar?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I can't even remember had I mentioned it. I'd been lucky
Unmute.
enough to see it a good bit before that, but yeah, the official launch was Tuesday last week, and it was out in all its glory. And by all accounts, the reason for the delay we know. So it was delayed because they got an edict from on high that they didn't want to launch it with a lack of stock in the marketplace. They said that that's happened. It's happened too much, and the market's tough out there just now for sure. There's not the sales are not what they have been over the last few years for a multitude of reasons, and they felt probably quite rightly that there was a lot of hype about this watch, a lot of kind of build up to it, and they wanted to make sure that if folk got hyped about it and saw it, that they could physically buy it there and then, because I think they feel if they didn't, many folk might go, yeah. Oh, well, a few weeks later, maybe I shouldn't spend that money, So they wanted to basically effectively be able to capitalize on it. And they very much did. I mean, in London, they had the kind of launch event for it, and they had a lot of folk there. I think there was at least 10 people bought one at that event in the night, had it sized, and walked out with it on their wrists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, which was actually really good to see. It was
Yeah.
kind of like all right, fair play. And it's a banger. It's like, I would argue, outside of a couple of unobtainiums within the Speedmaster range, it is the best by quite a considerable margin. If you want the genuine Moonwatch, or as near to genuine as you'll get these days, buy the Black Hesselite. Fine. That's, you buy it because you want to buy as near to the original for that narrative. Fine. Outside of that, you buy that white one. It looks for it's £100 more in the UK than the black sapphire sandwich, and frankly, I'm surprised it is only £100 more, because if you look at the black sapphire sandwich, it's a satin matte black dial. It's printed. It's nothing particularly special. It's well made, fair enough, but it's not a special dial. This white one, the luster and the kind of gloss on it is just it's even the pictures do not do it justice.
Yeah, the applied indices and all that as well.
Yeah.
Look at them. Yeah.
But the white on it is verging on that kind of gleam you only get from like well done porcelain. It's that kind of quality of finish on it.
It looks like it now. It looks almost porcelain there, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
does. I thought that, yeah.
You say enamel, Pete, but like the white enamels tend to just have, they're not quite as glossy as that. It's that gloss you can only really get from that fired porcelain. And you've got these kind of polished black kind of rhodium plated indices with a little insert of lume in them as well. So you've got the little lume insert into them. Just the applied logo for the the Omega sign as well, stuff like that. The dial is considerably more work and finish than the black dial one. So for 100 more, and okay, you can argue black and white about, is the Speedmaster now too expensive? Yes, it probably is. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's $7,500, give or take. That's how much the watch cost. If you want one, that's how much it costs. That's your point of entry. This is an absolute belter, and it will probably kill things higher up the Speedmaster range for some people, because folk who there was one guy who had wanted a Snoopy, couldn't get one, and got this, and he just said, I don't need the Snoopy anymore. This is.
What's your opinion on the Speedmaster writing being in red? I've had a couple of friends say if it wasn't in red, if it was black, they'd be all over it. But
I like that.
Because
you've got the red tip as well on the chronograph hand.
Do you know what? I quite like it personally. I think the Speedmaster at the end of the day is a kind of weird cross between a sports watch and a tool watch. It's background history and motor racing. Used to the tacky using for timing things, and I think that red just gives it a kind of little sporty nudge and a wee nod. And I think it just, personally, I think if it was in black, it would be absolutely fine, and it would probably be 99% as good as this. But I think that wee red's just like,
I like it in red.
a very subtle, judicious use of color can really just elevate it from really good to excellent, and I think in this case it has.
Yeah, I think I look at this watch and everything you just said, Dave, about, when you get close and you see those extra details and you see that extra work, this is a watch that kind of captures how Omega has gone from being that $4,500 watch that Sam was talking about earlier to how they've become a £7,500 watch, £7,500 watch now. And I think if you look at the original Moonwatch Professional with its printed dial and everything, it's tricky to look at that and say, why am I spending luxury watch money on this? I think this watch, and I haven't seen it in the metal, this watch seems to close that gap and says, this is a $7,500 watch.
Totally agree. I mean, the original with that printed black dial, we all know why the dial is the way it is. It is the kind of, it's the nod to the history of that watch. And yes, if you look at the most recent Speedy with that black dial in it, the movement, the case, the bracelet, everything about it is significantly more premium than that watch was 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's much better made. The movement is infinitely better than it was. But this white one, it's a bit like the one thing that was missing was an absolutely poppy dial, and this dial does it personally for me, in a super classy way, without being like Bobby Dazzler.
Will you be purchasing one, Dave?
I can neither confirm nor deny this. This is public. this is being publicly transmitted.
Well, wait till he sees on the show. Wait till you say what's on the wrist, and he's
watch my Instagram, and you don't even watch. Just go and look at it, and you'll find out if I own one or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think maybe you got the tense there wrong, John. I think maybe the future tense was unrequired.
He got one. Yeah, of course he has.
So he saw 10 get sold, 9 to other people.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
couldn't possibly comment. But I think it's getting a bit of heat from a few folk. But all the heat it's getting is folk going, oh, but it's not worth that money, and you're like, yeah, it is. It is. It's like,
I like the red. I think the red makes it. I think make it stand out. I definitely do like that red. It draws your eyes to the dial.
Yeah.
Your eyes draw to that dial.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Take aesthetics. Take the aesthetics question out of it. This versus a steel Daytona. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take out the argument of what it looks like. This is infinitely better value watch than a steel Daytona.
Yeah.
And it's quite a lot cheaper.
Yeah, because they're at 12.
Personally, I'd throw the aesthetics in and say it's a better looking watch than the Daytona.
In my opinion, I agree wholeheartedly. A lot of Rolex fanboys will chastise me for that and say that it just doesn't have the refinement of the finish or the refinement of the design of the case and yada yada yada. But this design has stood the test of time just as much as the Daytona has.
Yeah. The magic thing about a Daytona is that it's a really thin automatic chronograph. But apart from that, I don't find it particularly exciting or interesting.
Yeah.
What I do find interesting
as a value when you look at this, suddenly you go, oh, it's not as bad as it actually could be.
It could be worse. I do find myself thinking, we were talking before about the Studio Underdog. We're now talking about this watch. The brand I watch a lot, Breitling, is doing a lot of manual wind chronographs. When Breitling started talking about when Breitling announced they're taking over Universal Genève, there was a lot of discussion about, I'm really people looking forward to manual wind chronographs. Is the manual wind chronograph a bit of a sleeper trend that's emerging, that people are kind of looking for manual winds? Because it does give you a much better view from the back.
Well, I would argue manual wind is a bit of a sleeper. Manual wind, but manual wind, automatic was seen as, probably quite rightly at the time, a natural progression of let's make watches more simpler to use. Yeah, because most folk, almost everyone, wore a watch. Phones didn't exist. automatic watches came about, it just meant you could just pick it up and go. End of story. You could leave it off for a day or whatever. Probably back in the day, they didn't have super long power reserves, but you could not wear it for a day or so and pick it up and go. Watches are completely superfluous to life now at the end of the day, right? And like, if you're, especially when you're, let's be honest, messing about with high-end, ludicrously expensive mechanical timepieces, actually, I would argue that probably going back to the hand wind, certainly for me, you've got more connection to the watch than you would otherwise. If it's just an object that sits there and it's so easy to use that you can just pick it up and put it on and go, versus you have to go, oh, actually, hang on, I need to wind that up and I need to set the crown and I need to set it. It just kind of gives, for me, certainly a bit more direct connection to what it is. And yeah, I quite like it. And I agree. Infinitely prettier looking 9 times out of 10, not behind a big slab of something that goes spin, spin.
It becomes a morning ritual, doesn't it? Like, like cleaning your teeth and stuff like that, winding your watch in the morning. It becomes a... I remember seeing my parents. I don't know what my mum had. My mum had some hand wind watch or something, some tiny little one. And I just remember seeing them in the morning, just winding it up. That's what she did. It's what you do every morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jack Mason just released an Ellen watch that is a manual wind Solita, and that was Peter's one of his motivations for making manual wind is he thinks that it allows you to bond better with the watch if you're winding it.
And it's interesting, like Anordane, obviously, again, the whole, most of that brand is predicated around those handmade enamel dials and your kind of the artisanal aspect of them. They still pretty much offer the option of a manual or a automatic movement in any of their watches. And actually, even on the Pollen brand, which is their like super entry level watches, you can have the manual or automatic as well. And I think it's more than half go for manual by choice.
Wow.
Yeah. I was thinking primarily because we were talking about chronographs, but I actually agree with you. I think manual wind watches. I mean, I was just doing the maths in my head. With the size of my collection, you would need to have a watch offering something around 2,000 hours of power reserve for it to be worth me, having an automatic watch.
Yeah.
So it's manual or automatic for me is largely irrelevant.
Exactly. If you're a 1 or 2 watch person and you probably don't even count yourself as a watch collector, enthusiast, whatever, fine. Makes perfect sense. It's like take it off on Friday when you get home from work. Maybe you wear something else at the weekend and you pick it up on Monday and off you go and don't need to worry about it. I totally sensible, makes sense, get it. But as you say, like, you'd need to have like a uranium rotor in it running off of a small reactor by the time you find it again and go, oh, look, it's still running.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere once the average person with a watch valued at $5,000 has 7 watches of that value. So most of us probably have a collection of 7 to 12 watches, and there's freaks like me and Dave that go way beyond that. But I think most people, unless it's got a power reserve in the hundreds of, not 100, hundreds of hours, they probably get nothing from a long power reserve in an auto.
Yeah, exactly. So you're as well just for me, I think it depends. If you want something utilitarian and practical, fine. But if you're going to open up the case back and if there's the option for it to look pretty, which is especially true of a chronograph, like a chronograph compared to a time only watch typically has got lots of little bits and bobs that move and you can decorate it to death, so I think it makes sense for me. And that's why I think Agionor, when Moser and Singer did their chronographs with the Agionor and they engineered it with the rotor behind the dial, I mean, that's probably, I guess, to a certain extent, the grail of both, which is it's automatic and it looks pretty because it doesn't look like an automatic. But the downside is it's chunky. It ain't thin. Chronographs by their very nature are chunky anyway. You want it automatic, you ain't getting it thin.
No.
I've got I got the new Fears watch, which Nicholas very kindly sent me. He said actually I might be the first person in America to get one, but it's using that Ledoux Perrier movement, and I was amazed how thin this watch is. It's automatic as well, and that movement is it seems to be a real darling of the watch scene at the moment.
Yeah, Anodyne used it as well. It's an option with Anodyne.
That's basically a 2894 envelope, if I remember rightly. It's I don't know if it's a clone. I'm not going to go that far. Dave, you might know more.
I wouldn't go. Yeah, whereas I would class Celita as a fundamentally an out and out clone that's been tweaked over the years. This is using broadly the architecture of an older movement, but they've taken the liberty of significantly updating certain facets of it. So yeah, it's kind of like we'll say it's a homage to ETA rather than a blanket Xerox of it.
We've got a super chat. Thank you so much, Junior. Thank you. Sorry,
but I think the point thing is they tried to keep it like within that envelope, that very small, very sleek envelope, so you can make a very thin watch out of it.
Yeah, it's. I think it's probably furnishing a need for a lot. There's a lot of brands now. Anodyne, you mentioned. Fears is another example. Folk who are selling watches in the just under 3,000 UK to £5,000 who haven't got access to Kinesi. So basically, they're playing in the same ballpark as Tudor, but don't have access to the Kinesi movement from Tudor. Therefore, they've usually had to stick to Celita and maybe try and perk it up a little bit of finishing extra, nicer rotor, yada, yada, yada. But fundamentally, it's a Celita. This is kind of addressing that in that it's certainly got a perception of being slightly more premium. It's a little bit thinner, so you can maybe get a little bit classier with it in terms of case sizes, etc. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit more unusual, you know. So I think it kind of is satisfying that demand at the moment for something within that kind of price tier.
Yeah, and the Kinesi only make their larger. I never remember the reference numbers, but from what I understand, Kinesi only make their larger movement, the one that's in the 41. That's the only one available to customers. So the movements in the 54, 58, I don't think you can buy as a customer.
So it's a bit weird how Kinesi work. Kinesi work in as much as technically anyone can buy from them. The problem is it's not a traditional manufacturer-supplier relationship, which is, you know, in the case of Celita, we make movements. Do you want to buy movements? As long as you can buy a minimum of X, you can buy them from us. Below that, it's not worth our while, but it's pretty straightforward. You want to buy 5,000 movements, here's a price. You want to buy 25,000, here's a better price. You want to buy 10, you can't buy them directly, but I'm sure you can find someone, you know, there's businesses who buy 10,000 at a time and sell them to little guys. Straightforward. Kinesi, you have to make a considerable financial investment in the long-term security of Kinesi, and then you can buy movements from them.
Yeah.
So effectively, you have to become a stakeholder within the business. And they do that for two reasons. And I get why they do it. They do it because, well, why not? They're Swiss, so they can get away with it. But also, it completely cleans out anybody that could bring potential disrepute or put it in a watch that maybe isn't the appropriate price. They want to make sure that nobody comes along and takes the same movement and puts it in a watch at half the price of the guys who are actually the main leaders in that. So Tudor don't want a guy putting a watch out at 1,500 quid using the same movement that they are putting into a £3,500 watch. So if the company have to put a considerable, and by considerable I'm talking six figures, and it doesn't begin with a 1 or a 2. So, you know, it's a seriously considerable investment. And if you're a little guy, you've got no chance.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? It's yeah, they've got to have some skin in the game. We had a question come through. It said, could peripheral winding rotors work for chronograph?
Yes, I'm pretty sure Buchra do it.
Yeah, they do work.
But yeah,
the difficulty you would have is most peripheral winders are not that efficient, and chronographs are pretty power hungry. So you would have trouble getting, sort of keeping the watch alive unless you wore it a lot, and probably wore it pretty hard.
Pete, can you explain what it is? I'm not sure I understand what peripheral
It's
wire.
on the outside.
Yeah, so
sorry, Pete.
essentially it's like a micro rotor in a way, in that the micro rotor saves you thickness by embedding the spinny bit inside the movement. With a peripheral rotor, what they do is the rotor is a ring that runs around the outside of the movement. Right. And they have a very complex gearing system, which then takes it from the outside, this ring that runs on the outside of the movement into the powertrain. The downside is, because of that complexity, and it isn't as efficient.
Right. So it's like those sort of spokeless motorbike tires.
Yes. They look sensational.
Yeah, which watches use them that we know of? I don't.
If you look, Karlev Bukhara, they actually. I think. In fact, I think Karlev Bukhara actually invented it, if I remember rightly. The peripheral rotor, I'm pretty sure, was Karlev Bukhara, and they look. Well, actually, they can look fantastic, but if you do it really cleanly, especially like Karlev do, you don't even see it.
Yeah,
it's
there's
there,
a German.
You don't see it.
There's a German brand, Lehman, that also use them.
I saw some peripheral. No, that's not. Perhaps I saw perpetual. No, peripheral. Do you know which model has them out?
There you go. Yeah, the one on the.
Yeah, there we go. Wow! Right! Wow! You can't tell. That's amazing.
So this outer ring.
Try kind of zooming it up. If you zoom it up, can you bring it up?
Yeah. So where you see Carl F.
That is the rotor.
Oh wow! Fascinating. Every day's a school day.
And usually it's a solid ring. Yeah, 9 times out of 10 it's a solid ring. But the Karlev Bukhara part, is usually a piece of precious metal, usually platinum or sometimes tungsten. And effectively, it then is if you imagine just a disc where one side of it's heavier, which means it will spin.
So it's like a hand wind. It's like a lovely. You see the movement like a hand wind movement because there's no rotor there blocking it. That's beautiful.
A lot of folk confuse it and think that actually what it is a normal rotor that is clear with just a metal on the edge, until you work out it's actually round the circumference of it. But you need a lot of gearing, because you have to effectively, if you imagine on the inside edge of it, there's usually teething, there's toothed, and then there's running gear that attaches to it, and it brings the power in to the accumulator. So it's a lot more involved in terms of construct.
That's lovely though. Right? I mean, and you've surprised other people haven't taken that on board to use that. I mean,
it's very expensive. They're very pricey.
Okay,
because one of the things is, because the how to put it, where the torque is collected, if you like, is from the rotor. That means there has to be like multiple pickup points around around the movement where it can generate its power from. So it's not like there's a single point that it's collecting its power from. If you go back to that Karlev Bukhara sort of view at the back, you can see there's about 4 or 5 points where it's picking up where the gearing is interacting with the motor.
So it would be like here. These screws maybe.
So
there's a sprocket. Yeah.
So they're very expensive. They're very cool looking. They're not super efficient.
So when you say not efficient, does that mean you've got to have a lot of movement to make them actually work?
Yeah, you just don't get the winding efficiency from them.
Right.
And how does that differ from the because Ricky's just bought one, hasn't he? A new Lease Nadan. The Freak has that grinder mechanism in it, doesn't it? Isn't that a weight?
That's a very specific.
Yeah, because
the grinder is. Yeah. I mean, it's
The coolest watch ever.
it is really cool. There's no two ways about it. But it's more like a offset mass, and as that offset mass moves, it's the same as if you look at there's the swinging hammer winding that is used by Glossuta brand. What are they called? That's terrible. What's their name? Christ, I can even picture the manufacturer, but I can't remember the name of the brand. Old German brand, high end. Too tired. Yeah, it'll come back to me. They use like a hammer swing, which is really quite cool actually as well. And it's literally like a little. It's almost like a pendulum in a wristwatch.
Wow. So which Ulysses has Ricky bought? The Freak.
The Freak. Yeah, it's one of the Freaks, and it is the Freak. Can't remember the name. It's horrifically bright and garish, but it's very cool.
Right. I mean, I love the Mark 1 Freak, the very, very first Freak. I just think it's
that's
gorgeous.
The coolest watch.
That is the coolest.
Is it this one,
watch.
Dave? This Maurice Grossman.
Maurice Grossman. That's it. That's the one. Maurice Grossman. If you have a look, they've got one that's got this kind of hammer wind. It's in their current range as well. They brought it back. It's really kind of bizarrely strange how it works as well. You know, a bit left field.
So this kind of moves back and forth, perhaps. This is from
if you go down a little bit more.
Oh, there you go.
There's a current one. So just you see, it's kind of hard to describe it. When you see it, it makes perfect sense. It's actually quite a simple concept, but it kind of swings back and forward.
This entire this entire piece. Moved back and forth in the watch face. Actually, from there it would move from there, maybe because that's the pivot.
Yeah,
that's your pivot. That's your pivot up at the kind of effectively in between the lugs to the left. And then the whole assembly swings back and forward.
Wow.
Yeah, looks really cool. Not particularly efficient either, it has to be said.
No. By the way, Dave, you've got a Mark 1 Freak then?
No, I don't. I don't want to spend more than I earn in a year servicing watches.
But are they ridiculous expensive to service? Are they?
No, they're not ridiculously expensive. They're a little service hungry. They'll go with that. They're a little fond of being tinkled with. But they're the more recent ones are infinitely more reliable. But you know, the early one, to be honest, was more a concept prototype watch that made it to production. You know, that was it's like anything. You know, to be honest, the first generations typically of any movement are pretty service hungry as a general rule. The one he got is called the Magma. That's it. He got the Magma. It was the Freak Magma, which is the one with the kind of carbon red case on it. It's super punchy and bright.
So this
is that most of the. Is that one of the Freak X's or the Freak Ones?
To be honest, couldn't tell you. If you stick in Freak Magma, you'll find it. There it is, second one down.
Just
what's interesting about it is nope, that's not it.
Okay. That's the Blast.
Yeah. There it is. See the three pictures. See the one to nope. See if you go back. See the three pictures. See the one that's it there.
That one.
Yeah.
That's it. Wow. Yes.
What's interesting about it is it's got a conventional crown. Most of the Freaks is a case back winding and a case back adjustment.
So I like the idea of the case back one. I love it. And you can see the coiled spring in the back, the original one.
This one's much more utilitarian from a point of view of usability. It's got this kind of red, kind of resin impregnated carbon case. I mean, to be honest, it's very Ricky. It's as he said, it's like a very expensive, very posh version of his Tudor Fast Rider.
Right.
I interviewed XF at who's the US CEO of Ulysse Nardin. Fascinating company, and they've got links with Kinesi, haven't they? Or they've got links with Norcane. think that
Not
was
that I'm
one of the.
aware.
No, so Ulysse Nardin and Girard Perregaux are, for all intents and purposes, this one and the same, different brands, same company. So both of them were owned by Kering Group for quite a while, and Kering Group were kind of like Kering are an absolutely massive, rich company in the same leagues as Richemont and LVMH, but they were pretty small fry in the watch game, pretty much having really only those two brands of note. And they decided to exit the watch market because they just didn't want to play that game anymore. And there was a management buyout of both Ulysse Nardin and Girard Perregaux, but they also have got quite a big stake in dial manufacturing, as in Donze Cadran, who are, you know, the biggest producer of very high-end enamel Grand Fou dials in Switzerland, are owned by said company, and they make enamel dials for pretty much everyone from Patek Philippe to Zenith to pretty much anyone in Switzerland that wants Grand Fou.
Don't they also own a big silicon escapement manufacturing organization? Like,
Well,
if you want a silicon escapement, there's a good chance you're buying it through them.
well, yes and no. They actually invented silicon as a use for escapements in watches. So it was Ulysse Nardin that did it before everybody, and then you got Rolex and a couple of other of the big players, shall we say, jumping in, and there was always a kind of funny nod giving to Ulysse Nardin, which is, we will sue anyone that comes within 3 miles of silicon, but we'll conveniently just leave Ulysse Nardin alone, knowing that they weren't anywhere near big enough to take them on in a financial fight, but that if they really decided to take them on, they would lose because they could easily prove they did it first. So they kind of just let them be, and they continue to do it. But Ulysse Nardin have really pushed the envelope, especially last year. They use silicon for dials and for decoration and for all sorts of things. They use it not as a structural or a mechanical component, just as an aesthetic component, and some of their stuff is exceptionally cool. It's very left field and it's very avant-garde, but it's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always liked them. And they do these diver watches that are more traditional looking as well, don't they? As well as the Freaks and the other ones. And Pete, you've got Ulysse Nardin, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got the Marine, the one
This
just
one.
there. Although I think that's the Tourbillon, which I don't have. But
Beautiful.
yeah, so I've got that in gold. No, actually, that's the dual time. So
awesome.
Basically, it looks like that. It's gold with a black dial.
Yeah.
I like
the Blast is a cool watch. I really like the Blast.
Which is this one. Oh, so it's like
and they did
skeleton all the way through.
Yeah, it's actually a really wearable, really good looking watch.
Yeah, this is the watch where it looks like they've just put cogs on the and sprockets on a a dish.
Yeah, everything looks like it's floating. It's really cool.
Yeah, they have a massive. I don't know if it's offices. I'm not sure it's an assembly plant, but they have their main offices are in Miami, and I keep threatening to go down, and I should do really, because they invited me down after we did a podcast together. Amazingly open brand as well to talk to like YouTubers and stuff like me. They're not.
Yeah, it's funny because of the two brands. Girard Perregaux definitely are playing the highbrow game more along the lines of your Patek Philippe type narrative, and Ulysse Nardin are definitely playing the more attainable, more affordable MB&F style game, which is we're doing kind of wacky stuff that is still very expensive, but you can attain one or you can buy one if you want. Whereas it's funny because at the end of the day, the same thing, but it's quite funny how they're mixing it up.
Yeah. We've got a question from Aaron, which takes us right back from, we've gone to super high-end movements. We're going right back to quartz now. He's asking did anyone notice that the VK63 watches are getting really pricey?
To be honest, it's everything's getting expensive.
Yeah.
It's just things unfortunately are going up in price. It's like food. I mean, I always think cars. you know, like cars have gone up by about 20-30% in the last 2 years, and watches just unfortunately aren't any different.
It's wild, isn't it? I've been watching some car stuff on YouTube, and especially in the US, you know, they're fond of the trucks. And there's a guy that just goes around all these truck dealers, and there's like rows of like Dodge Rams that the dealers during COVID they just basically added all the extras on, and so there's like these Dodge Rams at like 77,000. He found a Jeep Wrangler that was the same price as a G-Wagon because the dealer had just put all the extras on it. Wild. Absolutely wild.
Yeah, but even I mean, at the end of the day, you know, like a lot of this is you're beginning to see the follow through from things like energy prices, whether it's gas, electric, you know, all these kind of things. They've all got a specific knock on effect, and if every part of the supply chain has been impacted by it, and ultimately that will always get passed on to the end consumer, and that's just the way it is, you know.
Cruises. Yeah. Awesome.
You know, sadly, but yes, they are. The answer, yes, they are getting expensive, but they ain't going to get cheaper.
No.
Yeah, I had a sort of nice-ish surprise, I suppose, this weekend because Helen, she saw a Rolex. She has a Rolex date just that her mum gave her, but she doesn't like it because it has Roman numerals and a sticky out bit on the crystal, which she doesn't like. So
a woman of rare taste.
So now she wants, and believe it or not, it has a diamond. It has a really odd diamond. It's like a mixture between a fluted and a diamond bezel. Like it's fluted a little bit, and then it's got diamonds. So she doesn't like it's too many too blingy. So she wants a really understated ladies Rolex. And they are like there's thousands of them out there. We went into jewelers. Each jeweler had like at least 5 or 6 of them in the case, all different from all different times. So yeah, I could probably get one for between $2,000 and $3,000, which seems wild for a Rolex.
Wow.
Oh, go on, or you go on Joe, depending on what size you want. If you go on somewhere like Joma Shop, you can get new like 28 mil, 30 millimeter Rolexes at 30% off.
Yeah, it's bizarre because the only other watch that she absolutely loved when she saw it in person was Nicholas's Platinum Fears Brunswick. He was oh try this on. We're in New York. I try this on. Like, oh, I love that. I like the diamonds and everything. I was like, put it back because I said they do a normal Brunswick. Oh no, I like the diamonds.
Nicholas is the consummate sales professional when he's did that. He knew exactly what game he was playing there.
Oh yeah, because he had it under a little glass like exhibition case. Takes the glass off.
The dry ice and everything came out at the same time.
Ken Daigle was mentioning Cartier. Does she like Cartier?
I have this is in New York. I have been trying to convince her to buy a Cartier tank, and we found one that Helen sort of liked the look of, but I can't force her into stuff because she won't like it. Like in the moment, she'll do it, but yeah, it was funny because that morning Nicholas had shown me. He took us for breakfast. He's like, "I'll take you for breakfast." I was like, "Oh, that was very nice of you." And then he's like, "Oh, that watch that you always complain there's no date on a watch," and he bought the prototype of this out.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, here you go." And I'm like, "Oh, God, that looks really good." He's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm gonna have to buy this now. It looks awesome."
Hey, honestly, like. He's so good at it. He got me with it years ago. I can remember where I was. I was sitting in London, and it was like about 8 o'clock in the morning. My WhatsApp went bing, and I just looked, and it was just a picture of a dial, and he just put underneath. I had this made, and it just made me think of you, and I just was like, I was literally like that fish going, just hook me up, and it was literally like within about 20 minutes. Yeah, within 20 minutes, it was like, oh, I seem to have bought a custom Fears. How did that happen?
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't like. I said, I don't really like silver dial watches. Why did you put that really nice blue second hand on it? Because that completes the whole thing. Yeah.
I consider myself lucky that Nicholas has never quite made the watch that I want. So it saved me some money. I do like.
You only got the free lunch. I got the free breakfast, but it cost me $3.
Yeah, I think I can't remember the Brunswick comes in 2 sizes, if I remember right.
Does now, yeah.
Is it?
The
It's 38 and
classics, the
40 or
classic's
something?
38, and he's done a 40. That's right.
Yeah. So the 38 wears too small on me, and the 40 doesn't quite have the salmon dial with the indices I want. So if he ever made like the 40 with the same salmon dial and indices of the 38, then he's got me.
Oh dear. Pete, he does fears. He does the Brunswick bespoke, my friend. This
I
could
know.
be.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the problem is I've got a very specific watch in mind. I'm saving desperately for that, so I've got to get that one sorted.
Yeah, get it
And
first.
then
Yeah. We'll
And
just
then-
send him a copy of this over. Don't worry. This will be Sam is already splicing that
Well,
bit.
what
and
we,
he's
what we
sending
do
it
is
over.
send him this spec that he describes and send him his mobile number. And about 6 weeks from now, he's going to get a picture of a dial and hooks
Yeah.
hooks into him.
no, he's got my WhatsApp. So yeah, this little WhatsApp ping will appear. Pete, I heard this is what you want.
Yeah, he's very good.
Look,
I think he's got Luke.
this dial miraculously appeared in the office.
Now, what's the classic Swiss thing? We were going through the archives and we found an old filing cabinet, and look what turned up.
Yeah, he does. I think he got Lucy with the pearl dial, didn't he? He sent her that beautiful blue pearl dial that she.
Oh,
Lucy
that
time on her
was
hands
so good. Yeah, the mother of pearl one.
Yeah,
The
it was funny.
the funny
'cause he was
thing
telling me
was-
about them. He was telling me about it at the mother of pearl, and then people would come to the wind up when I was there. I'm like, oh, and so oh, Nicholas, that's a very rare mother of pearl you've used there. And he's like, oh, I'm glad you've asked about that. I did it like 3 or 4 times when people were approaching.
Yeah, I was thinking. I know he does that bespoke thing, and I was thinking a Brunswick with like a candy apple red, that deep lustrous red, like they use on hot rods, would be really cool. He's gone and used it, I think, in the new Radcliffe.
Yeah, this one's got the yeah. In fact, let me just before I know we're kind of coming to time here, but let me. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah,
Like that. Hang on.
That's the is that the 39, Dave?
That's the 38.
38.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 38 Brunswick.
And this is like a line brushed. This is my custom one that he did.
That's
this
good.
kind of red. It's a deeper red than the one that he's got for the new one, but it's super nice.
It is lovely.
Yeah, so this is the one, Pete. The one. This is Palm.
Yeah.
So big thanks to Palm. I think actually Palm was taken by this one. Nicholas did offer to, because he said, "Oh, you can review the green if you want as well before you." We can review the green and with your silver. And I'm like, don't send me that green. I said, I cannot have the two of them together and then obsess about do I need the green as well, or should I have gone for the green? I'm like, I do not want to see that green in person. I'm like, I'm sticking with the silver.
Yeah, the silver's super cool. Actually, that whole range, they're very nice.
Yeah. So big thanks to Palm for sending these in. Cool. Well, that was awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Any last thoughts? If not, we'll wrap it up. That we did a double show because I got the times mixed up, but it worked out very well.
Yeah.
I was just amazed at how many British brands we've got, and it seems that over the past decade and a half or so, there's been a huge resurgence in British brands, which is brilliant. I think really is brilliant, and more power to them. And I think it's really great. All these names I'd never heard of, and Arkin, Alkin. This goes on.
There's a multitude. There's a multitude of them, and they're doing some cool stuff.
And they're doing some really cool stuff, like Dave said. And it's just brilliant to see the British watch industry booming again. And I think it's really, really positive. And,
it's a great.
Really happy to see that.
Yeah, great sentiment to end on. Big thanks to the panel. Thank you everyone in the comments. Thank you all of those stuck with us for the full 2 hours. Very much appreciated. And we'll see you all next time on Casual Watch Reviews. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah,
Take it easy. Cheers.